Okay, what I'm going to do is a masterclass on how to do letters of intent, but really to show you what I do, which is in editing and identifying where you are. And the biggest thing that I see, and kind of the biggest, I hate to call it a mistake, but maybe it's just something that, no one's really done this kind of writing before. But it's that you talk, 80 to 90% about yourself and only a little bit about them. And you really want it to be kind of 60-40, maybe 70-30, but certainly not closer to 95-5, where most of it is about you. And although it seems like you should be talking about you, if you're the one expressing the letter, what you're really saying is you're trying to have a conversation with both of you, although you're the only one writing. And I'll kind of show you how that works. Okay, so the first thing I want to address is the font. So it's a little bit tough to read both of them, a lot tougher to read this one for a different reason, and a little bit easier to read this one. We have the same font size, 11 Arial over here, 11 Times New Roman over here. And you'll even read in the certified manual or whatever it is that Times New Roman is the best one to use. But I'll show you why that's not true. If you look carefully, you're going to see all of these little endings, and you're going to see that the P is cut off here and the Y is cut off here. And you're seeing all of these little tabs on there. Okay. So those are called serifs. And a serif is really helpful if you're reading a paper, but it's really hard to read when you're doing this. It even hurts my eyes right now to try to read these. So I'm going to change the font on both of them. This one on the left, I'm just going to change here, and it looks like, yeah, there's no reason that anything can't be different. And I'm just going to change it to Calibri. And Calibri is a lot easier to read. You can see that the spacing is a little bit better, and you can see that the Y is fully formed, and that the P's are fully there, and nothing's really getting cut off. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here, but we've got two font sizes. So I'm going to try to put Calibri there, keep the font here, Calibri there, okay, and then do that with all this. And it shouldn't mess with that image, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, but it did make it a little bit longer, which is fine. We're going to cut these pretty badly. All right, so let's get started with this one on the left, and then I'll go with the one on the right, and we'll kind of take these one at a time. So the first kind of thing that we're looking at is the header. And you'll notice that this completely lacks a header. And this is the header space up top, okay? And you can put a header in the body, like you could put it down here, and I could just say something like, this is my address, and something like that. But I'm not going to do that. You could put it there, but if you're trying to get to a page, and they don't really have to be just a page, the way that somebody's going to read this is not to read every single word. They're going to scan this, scan this, scan this, and scan this. And if there just happens to be a little more here, a little more here, it's not a big deal. You can even go as far as 2 pages. I wouldn't go further than that. But the way that someone reads it is very different than I think you think, and it's going to be that way. So when you're looking at the header and there is no header, then I would have to go all the way down here to see who this is from and where they're from. So I don't know anything about them. So the header isn't really that, okay, they're going to get in touch with me. It's more that, all right, I've got a name. I know where they're from. Are they from my area? Okay, so this is completely fictitious. I made this up. I took what somebody gave me in both of these. And both of these were real LOIs. I'm just fixing them, and I made it so that their materials are hidden. But in this one, what I did was I said, okay, well, we're going to have somebody who's in the same zip code. Wow, that's really cool. Here, you can see I have no idea Is the person from the same state? Is the same person from the zip code? Are they someone that did an APPE here? So that first impression is completely missing from this one because there is no header. I don't have anything to grasp onto. And if you do it this way, it's probably going to be a lot harder, now that I'm looking at it, for me to connect with a human being on the other side, because now I'm kind of reading a longer story. It's like when you get into nonfiction or you're reading a journal article, the most important thing is right there, and that is that this is you. This is who this is coming from. Yeah, the forecast ID and match number, I don't know if you need those. But knowing that, wow, this person is from the same zip code, same area code, gosh, they might even be down the street. Okay, so this is a person that's in town, local, somebody I can connect with. This person doesn't exist. Okay, so the first thing is I would want to make sure that there's some kind of header here, some kind of identification. Where is this coming from? Okay. There are reasons to do it this way, and usually it has to do with space. Like if you just run out of space and you want to put the person you're writing to there, then that's something that you would want to do. This date. So November 11th tells me you've been thinking about this site for a long time. Forecast opened in early November, so this tells me, okay, this isn't a last minute person. Same thing with this, November 30th when I plan to send it in, probably way before the deadline. So I have no problem with these dates. Looks like those are fine. A big thing I see with this, now we're going to get to addressing the director. Sometimes you'll see this kind of Pharm.D, comma, but then you have BCPS. So you kind of pin yourself in a hole with these acronyms. So what I would recommend is not using the periods at all if you're going to go that direction, if they have BCPS. If they don't have BCPS, it's fine to just do this. But if they have all of those ones after it, like that Pharm.D, MBA, BCPS, for whatever reason, it looks a little bit weirder if you have those periods in there. All right. Then you address that they're the PGY1 Pharmacy Residency Program Director. And this seems like it's not important, but it actually really is, because when you address what they're doing, then you've got things like, all right, well, is this the acute care or AmCare one? Because if you haven't even communicated which one you're applying to, you're in a lot of trouble, because there's going to be a super simple a group of the residents that are going to evaluate the acute care ones, and then another group that does the AmCare ones, and another group that does community, and it's going to be very different people. So think of it as being you have to put that so that they know which one it is. And then I just put, regional medical center. This one would have the address, city, state. I actually made one up over here, but they're about the same thing. Okay. And then Dear Dr. Director or something like that. But make sure you don't do this, like Dear Dr. Director Pharm.D, because then you're calling them Doctor, and that's not there. Make sure this name is right, though. Here, make sure you've spelled this name correctly. Double check, not only on the website, but on Pharmcast. Make sure or Forecast. I keep saying Pharmcast. Forecast that it's right. Okay. All right. So let's get into the kind of nitty gritty with, what we would do here. To start with, I would want to move this header to a header. So it actually belongs up here, so it's not taking up any extra space. And then this will automatically go to the next page. And so you're going to have to remember that, okay, I got to add a little bit of a space there so that it doesn't abut this. Okay. And then I think this forecast is spelled wrong. I'm pretty sure it's P-H, capital O-R-C-A-S. So I would check that on Google, but I don't really want to look at it while I'm in the middle of doing this. Okay, but I think that's how forecast goes. Okay, and that was probably a correction, an autocorrect. Okay, are all these things necessary? I don't know. Definitely maybe a phone number, an email address, forecast ID and match number. I just think that the most important thing is that if you are applying somewhere, that they have an idea of who you are, where you're from. Now, I want to skip down to the complimentary close because I want to talk about that first before I get into the body of the letter. So here in the complimentary close, we just have a very respectfully and then my name, Tony Guerra. Okay. Here I have sincerely Tony Guerra printed, but I also have it as an image. This really doesn't take a lot of work. You can just go into Google and say, I'd like to put an image, or you can do it on your Mac pretty easy. It's a nice touch. It makes it look like more of a letter, but it does take up a little bit more space. When you do this, though, I keep seeing, okay, and then Pharm.D candidate 2021, and then University of Potomac School of Pharmacy. So when do you put this, and when do you put this and this? Okay, so Pharm.D candidate 2021, when you put this is if you are graduating in the current year. Because if you are graduating in the current year, your chances of matching a residency are double as anyone graduating in 2020, 2019, 2018, all the years before that. I'm not sure what it is about, well, actually I do know, but I'm in some way making an educated guess. But why is it that someone who graduated last year, who might have more experience, who might already be a pharmacist, have a lower chance than somebody who's graduating this year? And I feel like it really comes more from kind of, if you go back to the fraternity, sorority days, a sophomore applying or going into a fraternity, even a spring semester freshman, is a completely different person than a first semester freshman. So a first semester freshman's kind of got this like, all right, I'll do whatever, I'll just kind of go with the flow, all will be well. But once you kind of get to that next year, the issue is really more of, okay, well, now I'm going to be working with somebody that has about as much experience as I do. And then the bigger concern is, why didn't they match? And that's something that somebody has to address if they've not been there. And usually their letter might be a little bit longer. But the biggest concern, if you put a prior year, so let's just say Pharm.D instead, I've just reduced my chances of getting that residency by a little bit if they are very sensitive to that. And so the site might be saying, okay, well, why didn't you get a residency before? And if you mention something like, well, this is kind of a specialized thing. I really wanted managed care. I wanted to actually get some work experience, and I felt that it would be better for me to have some work experience if I'm going to do a community or managed care residency, or I wanted some work experience in a hospital to really see which direction I wanted to go. And it just takes a sentence or two, just basically saying I'm very thoughtful about this. And it's not that I got rejected. It's just that I was being thoughtful about the process, wanted to wait a little bit. And now I'm making an even tougher sacrifice, which is to already have a job or money and then kind of move towards this. So if you are graduating in the current year, absolutely, put 2021. And then your School of Pharmacy, should you put that? Okay. So you can go to ASHP Match Stats, and I'm not going to put it on there because that's their numbers or whatever. But the big issue is if you're coming from some schools have a match rate of around 15%. What you're doing is, again, you're advertising the bad, and you don't want to do that. So if you have a high match rate, UCSF is an easy one to just kind of pull off the top of my head, where they have like an 80%. It's just absolutely insane. I think Medical University of South Carolina is another one. But there are some that are way up there and have match rates. And immediately that line brings power. The UNCs, the Wisconsins, Iowa's, Drake's, whatever it is. The higher you go up in your match rate, the more valuable that line is. The lower you go in the match rate, the less likely you should probably put it on there. And the reason is it really takes about 3 seconds for me to go check out the match rate and go, oh, am I going to be the one site that takes the one person from that school? Because that's kind of what's amazing about the match process, is that every single College of Pharmacy matched last year, at least one person, but some literally matched one person. And that's really kind of up to you. But when you're looking at this complimentary close, what you really should be looking at is, okay, this spices it up a little bit. Is it really going to affect my the length? That it doesn't matter that the length is 1 page. This class year, if it's in this class year, then, and I'm not Pharm.D 2021, it would be class of 2021. If it's in the current class year, yeah, I probably want to put that. And then if I have a high match rate, I certainly want to put that there. Or if I'm a local school. Okay, so if you go to like some sites, you're going to see, wow, they've only taken or predominantly taken graduates from the state of Michigan. And then if you are a graduate from the state of Michigan, then that's a good thing. Or you see, oh my gosh, they only took, like every single one is from Auburn or something like that. And those exist out there. There is a misconception about the heterogeneity and the homogeneity of the residency classes. And I'm not talking about gender and race. I'm talking about regionally. When somebody is applying from out of state, it can be a deterrent to you getting it if it isn't a national residency. So the good examples of the national residencies are like Mayo and UNC. You're going to see applicants from everywhere. So it's expected that you're going to come from somewhere else. And it actually gives you a little more prestige to come from somewhere else. Now, if you're local, you may have done a residency with them, but you're going to see that they're from all over. But some residency sites are extremely regional. Like some California residencies are only taking students from California. And that's not saying they wouldn't consider someone from out of there. But a lot of times that CPJE kind of scares people off and they don't really want to do it. So when you're deciding whether or not to put your school of pharmacy, and I get that you might have paid $200,000 or $300,000 for that degree, but it may actually hurt you more than help you if you have a low match rate, because it's saying, okay, it just does, and again, a lot of this stuff is on impressions, and that's the impression it gives. Okay, so let's start with the first paragraph in both of these, and really this is something that is probably the toughest thing to write. I just recommend just getting through it, or honestly, I've done this especially with longer writing that I've had to do, whether it be a 15-page paper for school or something like that. But it's almost always better to write the first paragraph after you've written the whole thing. Okay. But I can already tell where these are coming from. So over the last 4 years of pharmacy school, this is my template that's up there at residencyhelp.com. So I know that one. And then I'm writing to express my interest in the PGY1. This is from the UCSF model. And there's nothing wrong with starting off with this, just like in writing class, especially poetry classes and things like that. You would start with a poem of a great author that's writing in that particular meter or that particular style. And then what you would do is you would write your poem and then cut off the top where you had copied off them. Okay, and that's what we would do similarly here. So let's, because these first two are kind of similar, we're going to do some editing on first paragraph. All right, so over the last 4 years of pharmacy school, I would just cut that back here, or I could just put in pharmacy school. Okay. And then because I've gotten rid of that prepositional phrase, I can just put in pharmacy school. I've developed exceptional clinical skills, given back to my community through education and volunteering events, and have greatly advanced my teaching skills. And so what you've done is, you've heard that expression, show, don't tell. Well, what you want to do in the beginning is you want to tell briefly and show big. So what I mean by that is, in the beginning, you're just going to tell them what you're going to talk about. So I might say, in pharmacy school, I've developed exceptional clinical skills given to the community through education and volunteering. Events is kind of redundant. And advanced my teaching skills. Okay. And what I might do is to make this even more concise, to say I have developed exceptional clinical and teaching skills while giving back to the community through education and volunteerism. Volunteering, I guess you could say as well. Okay, so we've kind of cut those words. And I should have done a word count at the beginning. I could probably do that a little bit later to just kind of show you how many we cut. But I'm going to cut so many words that it's going to just be so obvious. I hope to continue my development at Regional Medical Center PGY1 Residency Program while speaking to your resident doctor director. So this is where you really get in trouble. When you say you're using the possessive and you're basically demeaning the person who might be reading it. So if the resident is reading it, you're like, whoa, you're resident. Whoa, where'd that come from? Man, I'm my own person. You know, I'm independent. What are you doing saying you're resident? Okay. So one, you should know their name. Like that just shows that you may not know the program well enough. But I might say, while speaking to you and the current resident, and I'm going to put a fake name here. We'll just put Sally. Doctor, and we wouldn't put Sally. We would put Doctor, okay? And we'll just give them a name like Dr. Peters, okay? While speaking to you and the current resident, Dr. Peters, but then you realize, wait a minute, the current resident already knows they're a current resident. I don't need to put that. And the RPD certainly knows who that is. So I would just put, while speaking to you and Dr. Peters, I learned that your preceptors care about both the patients and residents and how residents have ample opportunity to precept and teach through events such as the monthly education forum. So is this memorable? The answer is no, not really. You're saying some nice things about them, but what you want to do is say, while speaking to you and Dr. Peters, you just want to say one thing that you really like. I especially loved learning about the monthly educational forum. And the reason you're doing this is you're just making a connection and saying what was really cool for you from that conversation. The mistake is to name drop with that generality. And the worst thing that you want to do is, and I hate, I'm not trying to criticize this person, but I'm just saying you don't want to make the judgment for yourself. I believe I'd be a great candidate. Okay. Well, maybe, but they're going to make that assessment. Okay. So while speaking to you and Dr. Peters, I especially love learning about this educational forum. Okay. So now we've got to figure out what we're going to talk about, and we don't know yet. Okay. Because that's going to be in the letter. So I'm going to wait, and I'm going to say, and this is called paragraphing transition here. A paragraphing transition is saying, like, in this letter, I'm going to outline my clinical skills, my involvement in research, and then I think there was education. Okay, so that was here, but what we want to do is kind of make that clearer and make a better transition. Okay. All right, so let's go to the next paragraph. My P4 rotations have offered a variety of chances to hone my skills. Okay. So this is what is known as the passive voice, have offered. Okay. And then a variety of chances. So that's wordy. We could just put many chances to hone my clinical skills. Okay. But all of this is telling. Okay. So what I would do is say, in my P4 rotations, comma, okay, because you get the independent clause, I have been responsible for over 75 patients daily. I mean, you could put per day, but daily during a general adult medicine rotation, have made recommendations while attending table rounds, and have had direct patient care experiences in ambulatory care setting. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with the grammar here, but it's very wordy. It's a really long sentence. So in my P4 rotations, I've been responsible for over 75 patients daily during an adult medicine rotation. Okay, so now this becomes redundant because now you're saying rotation twice. Okay, so we're going to put clinically just to kind of introduce it, I've been responsible for over 75 patients daily during a general adult medicine rotation, have made recommendations while attending rounds, and have direct patient ambulatory care experiences. Okay. All right. The ambulatory care settings stood out for me, and I know I'm going to combine this because I know something is going to be coming later. Okay. And I might just say, in ambulatory care, okay, comma, I had multiple hypertension visits, so we get rid of all this wordiness. I had multiple hypertension clinic visits with a 14-year-old boy. During these visits, I learned about his love for sports, his attempt for a better dietary habits, okay, and how taking steroids due to a poison ivy break increased his blood pressure. Forming a relationship was an important way to let him feel included in this plan and that he had ownership over his medical treatment. I'm interested in your program because there are ambulatory care opportunities, wide variety of acute care rotations, which will allow me to have a proficient understanding of every level of care. Okay, so what this is called is burying the thesis. You've come to a conclusion, but in your writing, that conclusion should be the entry point. Okay, so it looks like this. Okay. You take the ending and you bring it to the beginning, and in your evidence, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm interested in your program for the acute and ambulatory care opportunities. Okay. And you don't need to say why. They get it. They get that you're going to be proficient in every level of care. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Okay, so I'm interested in your program for the acute and ambulatory care opportunities. Now, there's going to be research later in this, and I see teaching. So I'm interested in your program for the acute and ambulatory care opportunities. And now I might change it to acute and ambulatory care, research, and teaching opportunities. Now, what you've done is actually created that paragraphing that you needed before. Okay, so your thesis actually would go up here because that transitions to your next sentence. Okay, and then we wouldn't use a contraction, I am. Okay, so I'm interested in your program for the acute and ambulatory care, research, and teaching opportunities. Okay, now this has to match. Acute goes first, then you make your evidence with acute, okay? And then there's a little transition to ambulatory care. So in ambulatory care, I had multiple hypertension clinic visits, and we can already tell this is probably going to be a little bit long, and I might separate it just to make it a little easier to work with, okay? So in ambulatory care, I had many hypertension clinic visits with a 14-year-old boy, and you can already see that there's going to be some emotion with that. Because what is a 14-year-old boy doing in a hypertension clinic? That seems very tough for this poor kid. And so now I'm immediately kind of drawn in, like, whoa, why is a 14-year-old boy in a hypertension clinic? Okay. During these visits, I learned about his love of sports, his attempt for better dietary habits, and how taking steroids due to a poison ivy pressure increased his blood pressure. Forming a relationship was an important way to let him feel included in the plan and that he had ownership over his medical treatment. So I'm looking at here and I'm saying, well, wait a minute. I think what's happened is that we've put these in the wrong place. We need to put what I'm going to say first, which is, so I had many hypertension visits. I then formed a relationship, and then I showed the evidence as to how I did that. So during the visits, I learned about his love of sports, his attempt for better dietary habits, and how taking steroids due to a poison ivy outbreak increased his blood pressure. Okay. Now we can see that there's no transition to the research. And so what we might want to do is take some kind of bit of what's coming next, something about research, okay, and put it up here. So it is in these kinds of situations I would love to dive into research to better treat patients like these. Okay. And then I say, okay, well, I kind of want it to be one paragraph. I don't want to have this little extra. So I'm going to look for some places that maybe I can cut just a little bit more. And I can say, okay, clinically, I've been responsible for over 75 patients daily during a general adult medicine rotation, have made recommendations during rounds, okay, and had direct patient ambulatory care experiences. For example, and we can get rid of in ambulatory care because I just said it, so it goes right there. For example, I had many hypertension clinic visits with a 14-year-old boy, et cetera, but now you see it's kind of closer to the end there. Okay. I've been actively involved with research throughout pharmacy school as both a collaborator and primary author. This year I had the rewarding experience of presenting my research at the ASHP mid-year meeting, and I get that the mid-year meeting isn't here yet, but you know that you're going to present, so that's fine, and seeing the culmination of my work come to fruition. Okay. And what this is maybe a little bit of excess, because if you're going to talk about it again, you can just say, prior to presenting at ASHP midyear, and I see all the time that students will put what ASHP stands for. You absolutely should not do that. That is just a waste of words. Just put ASHP midyear. They know what it is. Okay. So prior to presenting at ASHP midyear, I established the research design, developed survey questions, interpreted data using inferential statistics, and creating the abstract and poster. As a resident participating in, and you don't need to put in your program, participating in the, and what I did was I took away a specific program. This is very good, where you're participating in a certain program, showing them that you've researched the site and that it comes out right. So participating in the ABCD program and completing a research project will give me the chance to sharpen my skills while allowing me to optimize care within the hospital. So you went from great specific to this kind of gross generalization that we want to get rid of. Okay. So as a resident, I am excited to participate. I would be excited. You don't want to say I'm already there. I would be excited to participate in your ABCD program. You don't need to say that you're going to get research skills and optimize patient care. They get that. They know that already. And so what we have now is kind of a half paragraph, and we don't really want to leave it like that. We kind of want them to be around the same size. So we're probably going to take this education paragraph and put it in there. Okay. All right. So I've actively been involved with research. So now I want to put something that says like with teaching, because I know that's what's coming next. Okay. I have tutored, okay, underclassmen. Okay. And now everything is going to be a little bit closer together. Created educational materials, and that's my fault. I changed it to do that. So created educational materials for clubs and projects and trained fellow pharmacy students. And that's really good that you use 3 examples. Okay. And you had to specify pharmacy students because you had mentioned undergrad. Okay. I've developed a budding set of teaching skills. Yeah, you want to get rid of that. That's a gross generalization. No one's going to remember that. Okay. So at my advanced community practice rotation, I had the opportunity to show fellow students how to transfer prescriptions, work the computer system, and give immunizations. Okay. And so here we have a little bit of a problem. Okay. So I'm applying to a regional medical center, and I'm interested in ambulatory care. But this is talking about a community residency, and I get community and ambulatory care have some similarities. But what we want to do is show evidence as to why we are good with ambulatory care. So I don't know that these are the examples that I would use transfer prescriptions, work the computer system, and give immunizations, these are saying that I'm a technician. These are technician, and I get you as a tech, you can't transfer prescriptions, but what I'm saying is these are technical things. And as these are not advanced community practice things, these are IPPEs. This is, transferring a prescription, working the computer system. Those things you should be able to do pretty well as a P2 or maybe a P3. Okay, so what I might say is at my advanced community practice rotation, I had the opportunity to show fellow students how to interact and develop better counseling skills. And I would want to talk to the person that wrote this and have a little bit of a conversation with them. But the running of this would be appropriate for managed care, maybe. Community, sort of. At least, you can do the staffing. But this really doesn't belong in this type of thing. And we have to bring it back to ambulatory care because that's what this site is about. It's not a community residency. Okay, it's a regional medical center. Okay, so I get that you're helping. I get that you're doing those kinds of things. But you're making all of these gross generalizations, and they're really not helping. Okay, so I had the opportunity to show fellow students how to interact and develop with patients. Okay, and I might be even more specific: how to use open-ended questions and develop better counseling skills. That's something that you would actually do in a residency as a residency preceptor. Okay, and then I would be even more specific about this last thing. I am very excited about your programs. Okay. Unique leadership seminars. And so if you're going to put teaching opportunities, you've got to say with what schools, okay? About your program to precept, and I'll just put the fake school, Potomac University students and the XYZ Leadership Seminar Series, okay? What this does is it tells you that you're interested, but it also provides that very important specificity to show, yeah, I looked at your website, and not only did I look at your website, I incorporated it in, okay? All right, and then this is where I see students kind of go wrong a little bit too. The skills I have developed through pharmacy school make me an excellent candidate for your program's PGY1 residency. I hope to further enhance these skills at Regional Medical Center. I appreciate your time in reading the letter, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so what you just want to do is you want to say what you started with, okay? And so if you were interested in these things, okay, I hope I have demonstrated my fitness in acute and ambulatory care, research, and teaching so that I might better serve your patients. Okay. Whoa, patients. Okay. And then and then we would just put the name of it, Regional Medical Center, PGY1 Residency. Okay. And then I appreciate your time in reading this letter. It's just a nice way to say thank you. But you only need to say thank you once. And if they have questions, they're going to ask, but really you're not going to get questions. You're just going to get a letter that says you got an interview or not. Okay. All right. So we're kind of done with this, and the next thing I would do is have to communicate back with the person, ask them for the website that this is at, ask them which core rotations they're most interested in, which elective rotations they're interested in, and then we would want to weave that into here, because really what you're doing is you're applying for a job. It's a lot more than, it's not just teaching. You have to be qualified so that you can hit the ground running. Okay, but this is the next thing I kind of wanted to go into, and maybe we can make this a little bit bigger for this part of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into Grammarly. Okay, so now I'm in Grammarly, and we can see that there are a couple of things wrong, but overall I get a 95 for my try, and there are 13 alerts in there. I'm going to go through the alerts and kind of show you how to use them. It fixes the formatting when you go back, so that's not really an issue. Okay, so in pharmacy school, yeah, I should have put that comma in there. Okay, I have developed exceptional clinical and teaching skills while giving back to the community through education and volunteering. And then it says, okay, well, there's a little bit of a unclearness, and this is a suggestion that just makes it a little bit better. I have developed exceptional clinical and teaching skills in pharmacy school while giving back. What this does is it also makes it a little bit different, which is excellent. Okay. When speaking to you and Dr. Peters, okay, so we're saying Dr. Peters was the current resident, okay, and I'm interested in your program for acute and ambulatory care, and because I'm talking about the opportunities, I'm probably just going to leave that "the" in there, because it could be acute and ambulatory care, research and teaching opportunities. I guess I could get rid of it, get rid of the article, okay, all right. Forming a relationship with him was a meaningful, and so we've used the word important maybe too many times, and so we say a meaningful way to let him feel included in the plan, and that he had ownership over his medical treatment. So let him feel included in the plan and ownership over his medical treatment. Yeah, that doesn't really add anything, so we can get rid of it. Okay, it is in these kinds of situations, and we can just replace that with "in." Okay, I would love to dive into the research to better treat patients like these. Okay, prior to, maybe it is a little bit wordy, so before presenting at ASHP mid-year. Okay, another one, with teaching, I have tutored underclassmen, so maybe I've tutored. Now here it does change what I was trying to do. I was trying to make a transition from research to teaching. So here, with teaching, I have tutored underclassmen with teaching. So I don't think that, yeah, I guess it would make it a little bit different, but it also doesn't separate it. So I would be excited to participate in your ABCD program. You know, I have tutored underclassmen with teaching, and that kind of doesn't make the sense that I want, so I'm not going to rephrase it, that sentence. Open-ended should be hyphenated. Okay, I have tutored underclassmen, and then if created has been used too many times, we can use the word developed instead. Okay, so now it's calculating my grade. I double check. There might be a little bit of clarity here. I'm trying to make a transition, so this is necessary. Okay, but my correctness is good, clarity, engagement, delivery, so I get a 99. Okay, and that's what it looks like, you know, when I'm done with Grammarly. Okay, and now we're ready to kind of go on to our second one, and I already know with this one, it's going to be very little left of it after I'm done with it, and I'll kind of explain what's going on there. So the first thing is I'm writing to express my interest in the PGY residency program at, and what's happened is this is the UCSF Open, and I've seen this a number of ways, but this is immediately signaling that your letter is generic, and what you want to do is make sure that you put that somewhere different. So a really easy way to do this is just to cut it out, and I'll show you how to do it, but to make sure that you don't start with "I'm writing to express." It is a signal. 40%, 50% of students use it. It is just a death knell if you're trying to show yourself as unique. Okay, so instead what we would just do, and I changed this date, but at the virtual recruitment event on October 15th, I had the pleasure of learning about, I had the pleasure, I've seen before too in other writing, of learning about the expansive opportunities this program offers. I appreciate the time you, Bob, Josie, and other preceptors, and these aren't their names, but they did use first names, and other preceptors spent educating us. I was greatly impressed with the resident autonomy and the value placed on Bob and Josie's suggestions towards improving the program. As a P4 student, I'm interested in pursuing to advance my clinical knowledge, improve my clinical skills, and enhance personal confidence. And all of these are great things, but it's gross generalizations and completely not memorable, and you've insulted the residents by not using their titles, doctor this and doctor that. Even if they said you can use their first names, you can't, I assure you. So if you're like, oh, well, I'm Bob. Hey, Josie, what do you think of this letter? You know, so I would definitely make sure to find out what their last names are. and we're going to change that around. So the first thing I would do is, there's so little in here that's actually going to stay. All I would do is just get rid of this. Okay, the PGY1 residency program at University Hospital Uptown. And what I might do is turn this around and say, at the virtual recruitment event on October 15th, I met, so I'm going to be putting this there. So the way that I do it is, it's harder to explain than it is to actually just do it, but here's what I'm going to end up doing. At the virtual recruitment event on October 15th, okay, and because I'm going to put this, okay, this is just in the wrong place. Okay, all right, so I appreciated the time that you, and we'll put this as if these are their last names, Dr. Bob and Dr. Josie, okay, and other preceptors spent educating us at the virtual recruitment event on October 15th. Okay, so that's what you want to start with. Okay, I had the pleasure of learning about the expansive opportunities. You're just flattering there. I was greatly impressed. Nobody cares if you were impressed, because it's not about you, it's about them. Okay, but I think that this part, resident autonomy, and the value placed on Dr. Bob and Dr. Josie's suggestion towards improving the program, it just makes me concerned that you're seeing improving the program. Like, you're going to come in there on this horse and be like, there's going to be some changes going on here, and we don't want to convey that. So I appreciated the time you guys spent at the recruitment event on October 15th. Okay. I see your program. I see the program at, and so this is where we could put that in. So I see the, and you saw, because it was in the past. So I saw the PGY1 residency program at University Hospital Uptown values Dr. Bob and Dr. Josie's autonomy and suggestions. Okay, so what you're saying is that, what you took away is that it's a program that listens and that is working to be better. Okay, ranked number 1 in quality and safety. Yeah, they already know. You don't need to tell them. Okay, and then that makes it worse in that you're trying to go to a site based on its prestige, and that's the last thing you want to convey. Okay, so offers its residents unique opportunities like the option to compete. Okay, so that's something that's important. You've put something unique. Okay, so unique opportunities, and we'll probably need that later. Okay, so I know UHU offers its residents unique opportunities like completing rotations at various university hospital sites. Okay, and then get rid of the more specifically and just put in internal medicine, critical care, and antimicrobial stewardship. I am also very excited about the nutritional support, infectious diseases, and medication safety areas. Okay. All right. UHU is well equipped to foster these interests with the beds and board certified preceptors. Confident doing a residency will well prepare me to gain board certification. Okay. So yeah, that's going to do that. But what you want to do is say what kind of board certification you want. Okay, so, and I'm looking here and I don't see it. So I'm just going to say ID. I don't know if that's true or not. Okay, I would ask the person. But I know UHU offers its residents unique opportunities like completing rotations at various university hospital sites in internal medicine, critical care, and antimicrobial stewardship. I'm also very excited about the nutritional support, infectious diseases, medication safety areas. I look to complete an ID PGY2 residency and these experiences where I might support your patients. Okay. Would allow, and what you want to do is kind of put something that basically says I'm looking to complete an ID residency. So I might just combine those two. Yeah. And just get rid of the rest. So I would just go something like this. I look to complete an ID PGY2 residency, so I'm also excited about nutritional support, infectious diseases, and medication safety areas. Okay. And so what you've really done is you've said, I've met you guys. I've saw that you have unique things like, you don't always get to go to different sites like this. That's a really cool thing. And then you're saying, well, how is this specific site going to support your future goals? And you have to say, I want to do ID PGY2 or critical care or whatever it is. Okay. I've had the fortunate opportunity to be involved in multiple leadership groups, clinical experience, and research projects. Okay. So this would have been great, but there's no evidence or specific evidence. And that's what you want to put in is the leadership group, the clinical experience and research projects. And I would actually probably put clinical groups, clinical experiences, and then leadership groups and research projects, because you're really being hired for a clinical job. So you want to demonstrate your clinical ability. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Implementation of projects. This is all generalities. Natural challenging environment. Am I inpatient? Allowed me to independently work up patients. Literature supported. No. Guideline-based research project gave me experience. So this would be under research projects. So additionally, completing a guideline-based research project gave me experience in developing MUEs, data collection best practices, and development of analysis methods. Okay. Although my critical care rotation was canceled, this inspired me to enroll in an ASHP critical course. I don't even know if I would mention that. I would just say I enrolled in, and I wouldn't say it's free. It makes it sound like I enrolled because it was free rather than what it is. So I enrolled in an ASHP critical care course while simultaneously completing my alternative leadership and advocacy rotation virtually. Okay. And so what we have is kind of pieces of what you're going to put in there for leadership, clinical leadership, and so forth. Okay. I've also served as an editor and chapter author for a Clinical Pearls Handbook that's close to completion and publication. This is very good. So this would go under research. Okay. In summary, I believe the training aligns with this is a thing that you see all the time. I am seeking. All right. So when you're in line with 200 other people applying for 4 spots, it's not but what you are seeking. It's what you're going to do for them. And then I'm certain I can perform the duties. Well, you want to show, not tell. So we'll just get rid of all that. Thanks for your time and consideration. I hope to speak with you later. No, just thank you for your time and consideration. Okay. So this one, I don't even have really enough to make a full thing, but this is really important to kind of get this kind of feedback that, okay, well, what I've done is I've got a good beginning. Okay. And now I'm applying for a job that's going to require clinical experiences, leadership groups, and research projects. So what I need to do is I need to put in the clinical experiences here. Are going to go here. Okay. And maybe this critical care course will be part of those clinical experiences. Okay. Okay. And I don't know that I would do this. So, because those are two different things. And then I completed a leadership and advocacy rotation. Okay. And I would put in the details there. Okay. And I wouldn't mention virtually. Like that might come out or pieces might come out. And then additionally completing a guideline-based research project. And this is for research. So this is leadership experiences. Okay. And then this is research experiences. And then at the end, you, like I showed you in the other one, so what you can do is kind of put these in there and just go, so I hope my experiences in clinical leadership and research demonstrate my, and I hate to say the word match, but I'll just put it for now, my match to your offerings and my commitment to the profession, or something like that, just to transition from this, and this. You have to transition to the ending. So I hope my experiences in clinical leadership and research demonstrate my match to your offerings at University Hospital Uptown. And then that allows them to put the ball in their court, and they'll let you know, did you match or not? Uptown. And my commitment to, and I wouldn't put the profession, I would put to, and then advancing infectious disease, like I would say something like infectious disease, just basically reminding them that that's kind of your stick. So advancing infectious disease clinical practice and research. Thank you for your time and consideration is all you need there. And then you would put sincerely, and I put my signature, and I'm the class of 21, so I would keep it. University of Potomac has an 85% match rate, so I'm definitely putting them down. But this is all that's left. But this is important feedback to know that you thought you had a complete letter, but you really didn't. All you had was a bunch of gross generalizations. But what you did do is you framed the beginning, and now you can start it. And now you know what's missing in the middle. And now you know what you can follow up with. So again, very courageous to send me this. And again, I wanted to keep them anonymous. But this is what it would look like, after I'm done. And so now I need to send this back to the student. The student would say, okay, well, this is my clinical experiences, leadership experiences, research experiences. And they would pull a bunch of those from their CV. And the question is always, well, isn't it on my CV? Yeah. It's on your CV, but they spend even less time on your CV than they do on your LOI. And the reason for that is that when they have a CV, all they're doing is they're trying to fill out a rubric and give you points for this, this, and this. They're not really looking at what you actually did. So if you were president of something, if you were actually published, if you did those things, you want to be more specific about those things and make it crystal clear. So the more this gets colored in and more pictures you have, the better off you're going to be. But that's what I would do with this one, send it back, and then I would ask them to kind of write to maybe a page and a half, and then I would cut it down again and then get it down to probably a page. But this is what it would look like at the end. And then we can just go to Grammarly again to see what it would look like. Okay, so here I am in Grammarly again. And it's going to make a couple of suggestions sometimes at the beginning. And one of them is to talk about this kind of how did I use this. And so what I'm just going to do is month dth to the, and I'm going to make sure that those both agree. It is really kind of nitpicky. Okay, you, Dr. Bob, and Dr. Josie. So I appreciate the time you, Dr. Bob, and Dr. Josie and the other preceptors is what I should have put. Okay, and it might want a comma there. Yeah. Okay, so that's the Oxford comma, to use one before an and. Okay, all right. So we get rid of and. So I appreciate the time you, Dr. Bob, Dr. Josie, and other preceptors spent educating us at the virtual and recruitment event. Okay, and the development, data collection best practices, and the development of analysis methods. Okay, for a clinical girls handbook, close to completion and publication. Okay, and I hope my clinical leadership and research experiences demonstrate my match to your offerings. And yeah, I was kind of already at a 99, so it really didn't, do a tremendous amount. But again, a polish, making it a little bit better. Okay, and that's what an extreme LOI makeover looks like. If you want to get in touch with me, this is my website, residency.teachable.com/p/extreme LOI. And what I put in just for fun was some of the testimonials, and I'll read maybe a couple of them to you. I wanted to let you know I matched my first choice. Thanks for all your help. Thank you again for help with LOIs. So far, I've been 2 for 2 being invited for on-site interviews. And while everyone doesn't match or get an interview, I think that you can feel much more confident that if you have a professional editor on your side, that things are going to be a lot better for you. Okay. So hope you've enjoyed this episode, and get in touch with me at tonythepharmacist@gmail.com. That's TONYTHE pharmacist@gmail.com if you want some help.